Like, I think one of the biggest issues that I have with college is that they're literally training everyone to be a robot. Everyone in every industry or every degree is vying for the same job, and they're learning the same exact things. And I think that's my biggest issue, is that, like, how can the world advance and progress and change if everyone is being
absolutely
converted into these robots?
Hello and welcome to the Vibes Podcast with your host, Ted and Med.
I'm Med.
And I'm Ted, and welcome to the and welcome to the 30th episode, and that's a huge milestone. Today we have a special guest. He's a serial entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, digital marketing. Has consulting. You have three businesses going right now. Jeet Banerjee, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
If you could speak a little bit closer to the mic so we can get a good voice.
Right,
awesome.
perfect.
So, dude, it's a pleasure having you on. So we didn't really talk much when you got here because we wanted to kind of be naturally hear what you have to say. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started in all this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 25 years old right now, and I actually got started when I was 17 years old. So,
where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Fullerton, California, Orange County, my whole life.
Were you born there?
Born and raised, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so born and raised there, and I grew up in a very traditional family, so to speak. So when I was 15 years old, my dad one day knocked on my door and woke me up and was like, hey, like, you have food, you got shelter, you got a place to live, but if you want the latest video game or you want to go to the movies with your friends, you're on your own. Like, go get a job, basically, right? So that was like a big wake-up call for me. So from like 15 to 17, I worked 12 different jobs, and something was really wrong with me because I was getting fired or quitting from every single job that I worked.
What type of jobs did you have?
I did telemarketing, door-to-door sales, project managing, personal assistant, receptionist, like, you name it. I did like all odd jobs, tutoring, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I did that for 2 years, and after 2 years, I was still in high school, and growing up, my whole plan was, hey, I'm gonna get a degree in college, nice business degree, get a corporate job, and I thought life would be perfect. But I couldn't work 15 hours a week, and how was I gonna make that step to 40 hours? So I got really kind of flustered, and I thought something was wrong with me. So I started going on Google and almost like trying to figure out what was up with my symptoms. Right. And then I came across this idea of entrepreneurship, and like I was watching like speeches from like Richard Branson and like reading about Mark Zuckerberg and all these people, and I was like, man, like, that's my calling right there.
Right. And in high school, were you academically smart?
I was an average student. So the thing with me was, like, I never studied. I would copy my friends' homework, cheat, all that kind of stuff. But like I had like a 3.0 GPA graduating. So like I did nothing.
You're getting by, but so you told me you're Indian. So traditional Indian family, traditional Middle Eastern family. Did your parents expect you to become a doctor or lawyer or something of that sort?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like 4.0 student, lawyer, doctor. That's it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Same with most Middle Eastern families.
And then, so doing after all that, and then you were listening to these entrepreneurs, so to speak, you found your passion. What did you do next? What was your next step? I mean, I heard you had a TEDx talk, TEDx Youth in 2013.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago.
But that was a little later. You were 20.
Yeah.
At that time. So what did you do from 17 to 20 to get up there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been extremely impatient. So when I was 17, my impatience like finally paid off. So when I got tired of all these jobs and all this kind of stuff, I started looking into entrepreneurship, and I was like, man, I want to start my own business. So I had a job as a receptionist, personal assistant, and project manager at like a web design company, and that was the longest job I held. And I learned a lot about like the web design industry. So it was at that point I decided that I found almost like a niche in the gap, right? So there was all these developers overseas that would build a website for like a couple $100, but they would get no clients here just because they were the language barrier. And then you go to the companies that were local here, like the web design company I was working for, charging 10, 15 grand for that same project. And that blew my mind. And I was like, man, why don't I link up with these guys overseas and just be the US front, just manage the sales and marketing. Yeah, pretty much with the middleman. So I launched my multimedia agency at 17. And it's crazy. I love to tell people because when I started, I had no money, nothing, right? No experience, nothing. And I went out and started selling websites without even having a website of my own. So I sold like 2 websites to get enough money to make my own website.
Wow.
But yeah, so it was just a lot of like hustle, perseverance, and just learning while like it was like pretty much like jumping off out of a plane and just trying to build a parachute on the way down.
Bootstrapping. How? Let's just say you link up with these guys overseas. Say, hey, I'm gonna need websites. Build it for me. How do you get clients in the USA? How do you get someone to trust you at 17 years old, technically no experience at that time, to say, hey, let me build this website for you for this much amount of money?
Yeah, so honestly, I've always been very, very well versed and knowledgeable when it came to like tech and websites. Like I built a website of my own when I was like 8 years old, right? So I was really able to convey like how I could help these businesses, and so they could see that I was knowledgeable. And I think like that's the biggest thing. If you're going to start a business, educate yourself on how that industry and how that business works. And for me, it was lucky because I had that experience growing up and while working for that web design company. So I just really try to walk in there and not let people know that I was 17 years old, and really try to convey my skills, my knowledge, and tell them like, hey, I promise like I'll get this job done. And I faced a lot of rejection. Like I probably got 2 websites and I got rejected by like 98 other people.
Yeah.
So it was definitely not easy, but yeah.
How much would you say you would build an average website for?
On average, if it was a basic website, probably like 2,000 to 2,500.
And how much would you source that for?
A couple $100, maybe $500 at best.
So profits are insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what were your parents' jobs?
Yeah, so my dad actually, when he first moved here, he was a VP of a pharmaceutical company, and then he started his own side business, which was he was doing enterprise software. So that's where I got a lot of influence in terms of the tech. And today he owns his own enterprise software company. And then my mom has always been like a stay-at-home mom. Yeah.
Got it.
Does he use the same technique that you were doing at 17 by outsourcing overseas?
No. Yeah. So at that time he wasn't. So I taught him a lot about like the whole overseas market because he was doing everything here. And then when I kind of taught him about how like cheap things are out of the country and stuff like that, he did build an office in India as well and like expanded his operation. But his stuff was a lot higher level. Like he's doing like internal software for banks and stuff like that. Wow. So yeah.
So when you were 15, 16 and he told you, listen, we're going to provide you the basic necessities, but if you want video games or any luxurious item at your age, you guys were doing okay as a family in terms financially, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For him, it wasn't that he couldn't afford giving it to you. It was about raising you properly, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and I feel like that's something that I really like talking about because there comes a point where, of course, let's say we become successful parents, and you still want to teach your kids the right way to do things. I feel like he did it the correct way because somehow you guys were like well off enough, right? But he also instilled that hustle in you without providing you that money. Because I feel like at that point you were smart enough to know that you guys had some money. If he wanted to support you, he could. But how were you motivated to do it yourself, knowing that, hey, my dad really, even though he's saying to do it myself, we have some back support, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 15 years old and he told me that, I was heated. I was pissed off. I was like,
give me your money, man.
Yeah, give me the money. Like, who does this guy think he is? I'm 15. I'm just trying to go to school and all that kind of stuff. So for like 2 years, I'd say there's like a lot of like tension between me and my dad because I'd be pissed off at him and he wouldn't kind of like loosen the screws, so to speak. He'd keep pushing at me. And looking back, though, it was like one of the greatest things because if he didn't do that, who knows where I would be right now. And I have a lot of respect for my father because he grew up with absolutely nothing. And he moved from India, came here, and built a life for himself. So I think that whole process that he knows what it's like, and he doesn't want that same feeling for his kids. So that's why I think he kind of pushed me at a young age to go find my own purpose.
That's awesome, man. So from 17, you start building these websites at an insane amount of profits. That scales, I'm assuming. What's your next step?
Yeah, absolutely. So after this business started scaling, like obviously when you work with freelancers, there's a lot of turnover, a lot of issues, things like that. And I wanted to go for the bigger projects, right? Not just the basic cookie cutter websites. So what I was doing was I was investing every dollar back into the company. Like I really didn't need more than a couple $100 to survive. I got everything I needed. So I ended up moving from the freelancer model to actually building out my own office and my own operation in India, where I had my own staff, my own employees, my own manager, grew that to about 20 employees.
In India?
In India,
But you were here.
Yeah, I was here, and I had a couple other salespeople that were working under me as well over here. And yeah, so at that point, it just came down to really being able to scale it as big and as large as I possibly could. So that's what I ended up doing. And then I did that for all the way until I was 19. So for 2 solid years. After about a year, we were at about like 15 employees. And then from there, it like stabilized, and I kind of started realizing there was like a ceiling with this type of business. And so
why is that though? Isn't it more like the more businesses you bring in, the more websites you could do, just build up more employees?
Yeah, so the issue was like employee management was very, very difficult. So like you hit a point where like after 20 employees, it was just impossible to manage employees. People are stealing from me. People are goofing off. People are messing up websites. Like it was just too much at some point.
Well, especially when you're here, right?
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
like you're actually physically there.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was here and I'm trusting a manager over there to take care of things and all that stuff. So I did that for 2 years. And then I had a competitor here in Irvine that made me an offer for the company after 2 years. And I felt like I was ready to like create something bigger, something that I felt like I could impact more lives with. And so I decided to sell that company at the point.
Now, I've never sold a company, so let me ask you a question that might seem dumb. But here's what I don't get. Let's just say you sell this company to him, right? I'm assuming you're selling all your contacts and all your information to him, right? Can't you just sell that to him and go build a mock company again? Or do you sign something that says, hey, I can't build another website design company in the next couple of years?
Yeah, exactly. So I had to sign like it's called a non-compete agreement.
Okay.
So for the next 5 years, I could not be in the space of as a service making websites for other businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So now you have a lump sum of cash, but you don't have a business. What do you do?
Yeah, so the thing with me was like I've always like had so many ideas that I've wanted to pursue. So like towards the tail end of that business, I already started working on my next business. And so my partner and I at the time, we decided to create an application to help high school students get into college. So, because like when we were applying to college, we were clueless, didn't have time with our counselors, and we were just confused. So we decided to create this algorithm and this technology that would essentially tell students what their chances of getting into any university was. So they fill out their college application on our website, and it'll be like, oh, you got a 50% chance of getting into USC. And
How do you come up with that information?
Yeah, so basically it's a very hidden fact that these schools don't reveal, but all the universities by law have to release on their public databases all the students that got accepted, rejected, and waitlisted, and what their entire portfolio was. So it won't say it was John Smith,
right,
but it'll say an African-American student from Los Angeles, California with a 3.8 GPA and a 2300 SAT, and just fully break it down. So we compiled all this data, did a lot of research, talked to deans of admissions, and pretty much averaged it and came up with an algorithm.
That's awesome, man. And you built this on a website?
Yeah, pretty much.
What was it called?
It was called statfuse.com.
Is it still alive today?
So we got acquired on that company by a financial education company called LendEDU. So everything is under the company lendedu.com.
But it still runs.
Yeah, they're like farming leads with it now pretty much. So
That's
they've altered
awesome,
the system a lot. Yeah.
So how did that pick up though?
Yeah, so what was crazy with that one was when we got very close to launching it, we kept it as a free product because initially, like, we weren't thinking about revenue or anything like that. We were just like, man, this is a cool tool. We want as many students in the world to use it. So we started reaching out to a bunch of reporters, publications, and just a bunch of different platforms that catered to high school students. And we got extremely lucky because there was a TV show that would play in across about like 5,000 or 6,000 high schools across the United States.
A TV show?
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute homeroom kind of clip where it's like giving you daily news and it's like students do it in a fun way. So we emailed them and told them about our concept and they absolutely loved it. And they were like, hey, if you guys make a cool video of how your software works, we'll play this at the high schools. And so they did that, and right after we launched, within 2 weeks, we had 25,000 users just from this video.
You guys reached out to them, or did they reach out?
We reached out to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And that just blew your company up.
It just blew up from right there. From like day one, it just blew up.
And would you say that it was pretty accurate? Like if I put in my information, like I put in my GPA and stuff, it would accurately tell me what % chance I had of getting in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ran thousands and thousands of tests during our beta period with like students that had already gotten accepted and using their back data and plugging it in and seeing like without them telling us what schools they got into and having them plug their chances in. So yeah, unless someone was like an outlier case, like for example, like, you know, like they're doing like cancer research or something like incredible, that we can't factor in. But any like basic stuff, absolutely accurate.
That's awesome.
And then what would you do with that information?
With the students' information? Yeah, so we weren't selling you student information data or any of that kind of stuff. So we internally kept all that information and we just used that to grow our platform as much as we could.
And then once you got inquired, they now use that information freely?
Yeah, pretty much. They're using that information freely because what they do is this company refinances college student loans.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically all these students that were in high school
are now in
college. So now they're using that and then they're collecting leads that come in for future students.
So at the time when you sold it, how many users had you had?
We were close to about 300,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. So I'm assuming this is what got you speaking at the TED Talks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how does that work? Did you reach out to them or?
So TEDx was actually crazy. So I was actually, for staff fees, we actually got into an incubator in Orange County. And it's basically like an accelerator program that was run by some venture capitalists that was to help grow our business in exchange for like office space and a little bit of equity. And they gave us resources. So one of my mentors there, he notified me there was an event going on not too far from my house for a TEDx event. And usually the way TEDx works is they'll have like 50 to 100 speakers come out and pitch an idea. And then their panel will try to select 10 people to do that talk at that event.
Got it.
But what happened in this case was that out of the 50 to 100, the panel didn't get enough like people that met their criteria. So they might have had like 7 or 8. So then they started reaching out to all the local organizations saying like, can you refer me some speakers? We need to get someone going. So my mentor at the time asked me like, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this. I think you should go pitch your idea. And going in there, I was like, oh man, I got no shot. Like, why would TEDx pick me, right? So I came up with a talk and I just went there and I did my 100% because there's an opportunity. And to my surprise, they were like, oh, we love it. Like, we want to work with you and we want to have you on our platform. And that's honestly happened. So it was like a lot of like good luck and right opportunity, right time.
And that initial interview, was that the one that was recorded or they approved you and then you went on to represent that?
Yeah, so the initial the video that's on YouTube right now is the most perfected version of my speech.
Oh, I see.
So I went through like 6 months of hell to get to that point. Yeah, in the beginning I was nowhere close to that.
Got it.
I was a mess. Yeah.
And if you guys want to see that TEDx talk, it's just search his name. We'll put it.
We'll link it in the description.
But TEDx and it'll come up. But it was really cool. We actually listened to it, so it was very inspiring, man. And you did that at 20 years old, and a lot of people don't really have that type of knowledge at 20. So appreciate that, and that was really awesome, man.
Yeah. No, thank you.
So after that, did the TEDx talk open any doors, or what were you looking to do afterwards? I mean, you sold both of these companies. You have some money in the bank. What's your next step?
Yeah, absolutely. So for my next step always was like create more businesses, keep doing stuff, right? So after TEDx, I got a lot more like opportunities in terms of like speaking. I had like publishing companies telling me like, hey, I want you to write a book and all of these things. So for about a year or so, I kind of got distracted and thrown off my like entrepreneurial path of starting a business, so to speak. And I started like doing a lot of speaking events. I spoke at like conferences all over the world. I had a publishing company that wanted me to write a book. And so I was like, oh, that's a cool opportunity. Let me go and pursue that. So that's kind of what I did for that year. And then, yeah.
You wrote the book.
Speaking of, I forgot to mention, you're an author.
Yes.
What did you publish? I mean,
what was the book called?
Yeah. So the book was called Limitless Thinking. And it kind of stemmed a lot off of my TED Talk. And basically what it was I took all the different big highs and lows through my entrepreneurial career and the big lessons that each of those like moments in my life taught me about entrepreneurship and how to be successful. So I put together this whole book, and initially I was doing it for a publisher, but then the publisher told me like, hey, for the next 2 years, we basically own you. We're going to have you speak 250 days out of the year. And at that point I was like, no, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to self-publish this myself. Like I'm not trying to be tied down to anybody. So so I wrote that book. I published it. I self-published it myself. And within the first month, I was able to hit like the bestsellers list on Amazon. So that was really cool.
How long ago was this?
This was when I was 22, turning 23.
Okay, a couple years ago.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Can you quickly run through what it means to self-publish your book, how you did it, and what like the expenses were of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, self-publishing a book is a really easy experience. So
nowadays.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about back in the day, but yeah, nowadays it's an extremely easy experience. So basically you can go on Amazon. They have got like CreateSpace and Kindle platform, which are 2 big platforms to self-publish your book. And it's free to create an account. You basically just put together your content, format it in a book, design a cover, and you just kind of upload all that stuff, and they'll give you a paperback version, and they'll give you like a Kindle version, PDF version, and you just basically throw it up on the website. And then the toughest part of all this is the marketing, right? Like anyone can throw up a book on there. It's how do you get people to come in and buy it?
So it's essentially an ebook, right? Kindle, and you didn't have any physical prints.
No, I had a physical print as well. Okay, so Kindle is the PDF version of the book, and then Amazon has this other platform called CreateSpace, which allows you to create like a hardcover.
And they print it based on orders you get? Or?
Exactly, yeah. So it's like fulfilled upon orders, yeah. So it's a really cool experience. You don't have to pay anything up front either.
So if I have everything ready, can I have a book published by next month?
You could have a book published by tomorrow.
That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So like you said, the hardest part is so I also sell products on Amazon, so I understand what you mean by the marketing. How did you market your book to get to the top?
Yeah, so it really helped that because I had a TEDx talk and I had like a large following from the TEDx talk and a lot of the conferences and stuff that I was doing, that I was able to reach out to my own network and my own followers and just be like, hey, this is my new book. I'm going to give it to you guys for a couple dollars. Like I'm selling it dirt cheap for the first few weeks, and just to get reviews, just to build it up. And Amazon, as you know, as I'm sure you know, it's all about reviews, right? And getting positivity going. So that's what I really did. And that got that initial wave of sales. And then from there, it just really became about trying to do interviews, trying to get on Reddit, doing AMAs, just doing anything else where I could like help people. And if people felt like I gave them value, then in exchange, they may go out and purchase my book.
Okay. Now, we were actually talking about this on the last episode of podcast in terms of why people write books, right? I was arguing, and you agreed as well, that people don't really write books for the profits as much, right? Because I'm sure you saw some profits, but it wasn't like an astonishing amount where you're like, I'm quitting everything, you know, right? It's more for the value you put out in the world, right? What would you say were the reasons you put this book out, and has it led to anything else?
Yeah, so initially when I was asked to do the book by like the publishing companies and stuff, I was just like, oh man, I've never done this. And it was like another opportunity on the table. I didn't really know what it entailed or anything like that. So I just kind of ran head first, like I always have, impatience, right? So, and then while I got towards like the end of the book and I realized I didn't want to go with the publisher and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to give out of this book, for me, it's always been like from my TED Talk to this, it's like I want to inspire other people to go out and pursue their dreams. So for me, it was about trying to create another valuable tool that hopefully other people can use, because my goal is if I can impact one person's life to go chase their dreams, that's one person I may have saved from having a dreadful life, right? So that's really what my core goal was. I wasn't really looking for anything big out of it, but kind of looking back, I think it gave me a lot of opportunities in terms of like interviews, getting featured on publications, all that kind of stuff. And I think being able to write a book is a great credibility booster. Like as an individual, as a brand, as a figure, it's great for boosting credibility. So I definitely recommend it for people that are looking to boost their credibility, because to the general public, people don't realize it's pretty easy to self-publish.
Yeah, like I even me on Amazon, someone that's on the Web Daily, I didn't know you could publish it that easily. And it gives you, not that you don't deserve that credibility, but it gives you more of a higher look than some people understand what it actually is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because when we think of writing a book, we think maybe 10, 15 years ago of going through the entire publication, not being able to
like typewriter status.
Yeah.
Speaking of, how long did it take you to write it?
Oh man, so the book was about like a solid year. Like I would say like it wasn't like full-time writing it, like 9 to 5 type of thing, but I was probably like, I think the outline took me the longest. It took me about like 3 to 4 months just to get an outline of like what the chapters and what I wanted to share in the book. And then once I knew that, it just became easy writing it. Like, so yeah, I'd say about a year though, from editing to cover design, manuscript, all that stuff.
Were you ever a copywriter? And did you do like, how do you come, like, how do you know when you have a good book written? Because like, you know, Amazon customers are very truthful. They're like, you go on some books and it has so many horrible reviews, right? Like, oh my God, this is garbage. This guy's selling this guy's selling that. So how do you know when you're done?
Yeah, so for me, it was like more so than being done. It was in the very beginning. I knew a couple of my friends and like connections in the entrepreneurial world that had written books and had been really successful. So I was really lucky to have their mentorship and them to tell me like what it takes to make a good book, how to craft it together and all that stuff. So I took their advice initially. And then at the end, I sent them a copy of the book and I was like, hey, what do you guys think? And then they would give me some valuable feedback and I'd kind of reiterate. And then eventually I felt like it was there.
Wow. Is the book on Audible?
Yeah, it should be on Audible as well.
That's a good time to mention our sponsor, audible.com. If you guys want a free trial where you'll get one free book for your first month, for the 30 days and be able to use Audible for the discounts that it provides, you can use our link at audibletrial.com/vibes, and you'll get,
what's your book called?
You'll get one free book. And
Limitless Thinking.
Limitless Thinking by Jeet Banerjee. Yeah, pick that one up, listen to it, share your feedback, and it's free. So
did you ever think about actually verbally, what is it called? Like when you actually read your book, they can listen to the audiobook?
The audio of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that?
So I didn't like personally record my book itself, but somebody else did it for me and created like the Audible version.
Because I remember listening. Do you listen to like Gary Vee a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he always recommends like doing your own, right? So did you ever think about doing it or not really?
No, I've actually never thought about it. That's a good point though. Yeah.
I mean, he said it was dreadful, but it's worth it because when you're listening to Gary Vee's book and his wording and his voice,
to you.
Yeah,
it's different because his meaning, whatever he meant by it, someone else is not gonna catch that same thing, right? He has that more power in his voice. So I mean, that's really cool. So you write this book, it becomes very successful, and earlier before we started this, you said now you have about 3 companies under your belt. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the companies that I run right now is called Ahana Nutrition, and basically
Ahana,
Ahana.
What does that mean?
So it's actually like a Hindi word, and it basically means like kind of like all in one, like a full life kind of thing, meaning.
Okay.
It doesn't really translate well into English. That's the trouble with it. But so that's basically like a all natural vitamins and supplements company. We manufacture everything in the U.S. and it's just almost like an alternative to pharmaceuticals. Because I know when people think of supplements, they're thinking of like fitness stuff, but ours is more catered towards like someone that's struggling with blood sugar levels or indigestion, and they're taking like tons of Tums and stuff like that. It's like an herbal remedy to solve that medication.
That's
so
awesome, man. We're kind of in the same boat. I'm actually starting a nutrition company as well. So how long ago did you start that?
I started that a year ago now.
Is it doing well?
Yeah, it's doing very well. It's growing well.
And do you mainly sell on your own website or Amazon or in stores?
So we're on Amazon, Walmart, Jet.com, my own website, and then right now we're just working into getting into wholesale and retail on the retail fronts, and then we're just also expanding into Canada and Europe right now.
That's awesome. I'm kind of using this platform right now as a for some selfish questions, but what would you say were your hardest obstacles when building it?
The first thing I would say is finding a really good supplier. Like,
man, you said
right there is like money. Like once you find one, don't ever let it go. So I think that's definitely one thing. And then I think the second thing is really differentiation, because I think for most products and most companies there's so much saturation.
Like selling a fish oil.
Yeah, exactly. There's like 1,000 companies doing it, right? So you just have to find a way to stand out from the crowd and be different. And sometimes it's like, don't try to sell to the entire fish oil market. Find maybe like sell to like the 13 to 25-year-old, or sell to the vegan people that want fish oil supplements. So
And is your marketing mainly on like Facebook ads?
Doing a lot of Facebook ads, Instagram ads. That's a big thing. Also Google ads.
Got it. Cool. Wow, that's awesome, man. And
what was the website called?
AhanaNutrition.com.
Ahana Nutrition.
A8, not Ohana.
AHANA. Yep. Is it specifically just like, is it like all, like how many SKUs would you say you have on there?
Right now I think we're at roughly 40 SKUs.
Okay.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And in 1 year?
Yeah, in 1 year.
The good thing about supplements is like you have, would you say most of yours are custom built, or does your manufacturer, your supplier have like something that's already built and you put your own label on it?
Yeah, so right now we're at about like 95% stock. Just like the last 2 months we've been working into getting into more custom formulas.
Custom is more expensive.
Yeah, stock is the best way to start.
Just
get your foot in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. But you definitely can't start with something like a fish oil, because you gotta be a little bit more different. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think you can start with like a basic product like that, because there's such a huge market for it, but you really have to carve out your own niche within that niche, so to speak.
Okay, absolutely. And you also said you have a drop shipping company. So basically, someone that doesn't know what drop shipping is, actually you can explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. So drop shipping is actually really cool. So like, let's say I have a website front, and let's say I'm selling a mug, for example, right? So I throw my design on it or whatever I need to do, and now if someone places that order for that mug, someone, basically my manufacturer, the back end, ships that product for me, and I pay them whatever their cost is, and I keep the difference from what the customer gave me. And that's basically what drop shipping is.
The most important thing about drop shipping and having your own label is the fact that you don't really hold inventory. They make it as soon as someone places a sale, right? So tomorrow I could be a company, right? So tomorrow I could be a company with 40 items, yet I don't have a single worker and I don't have a single piece of inventory.
Yep, absolutely.
And
all
I
thanks
feel like
to Shopify, right?
Yeah, Shopify.
I just feel like I want to express this to viewers because a lot of people, whenever they go on a website, they think, oh my God, these guys are huge. They have loads of inventory. But you don't understand that a lot of these guys are drop shippers, right? They could be like us, 1 or 2 employees working on it, right? Perfecting the business. But in reality, they don't really have stock. And they're just ordering as soon as the customer places an order.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely check out drop shipping. Definitely check out private label. Those are definitely cool. So, with that said, what was your third business?
Yeah, so the third business is one that I'm really excited about because it's like a passion project for me. Just launched like last week, and it's called the Income Incubator. So like
Sorry,
one of the
income?
The Income Incubator.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, so it's theincomeincubator.com for anyone that wants to check it out. And basically, like I've seen a lot of so I've started a lot of different businesses over the years, and I've seen a lot of people that have come to me like, hey, I hate my job, or hey, I hate going to school. Like I want to start an online business. How do I do it? And that's the toughest email for me because I don't have enough pages in an email to answer that question properly. And then I've seen a lot of really poor material that I've also seen out in the market where just anyone throws out a course and it's like they've never even built that business or it just doesn't seem good. And I can just tell from the reviews. So a big passion project for me has always been I wanted to disrupt the traditional education by creating like an alternative where you don't necessarily need to get hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt and you can still learn something outside of a classroom. So I put together the Income Incubator, which shares 7 different businesses that I've created over the years, like different business models, from like starting your own multimedia agency to doing mobile apps to creating a web application to Amazon business, all this kind of stuff. And it's basically one comprehensive course that people pay $9.99 for. And they get lifetime access to the course, the material, access to me. And it's also really cool because any future business that I start, I'm going to share it within that. And once you sign up, once you've got lifetime access.
It's a lifetime. That's awesome. Man.
Yeah.
That's pretty. And what we'll actually link this, but it's the Income Incubator.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man. So I'm curious. Who do you look up to? Who are your motivators in this space? Like, for example, would you say, do you look up to Neil Patel?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that guy, man.
Yeah.
Who else? Who are some of your motivators?
So Neil Patel is definitely a big one. Gary Vaynerchuk is also a very, very big one that I follow. And then outside of those two, I think like the big ones are like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Richard Branson. I think these guys following up what they're doing and all that kind of stuff is big time.
What'd you think about Mark Zuckerberg's meeting with Santa recently?
So I thought it was first. So I use Facebook ads a lot to advertise, right? So it was like a bullet to my heart to see what was going on. But I thought Mark handled it really well. And like, man, I couldn't believe how uneducated these senators were on tech. Like,
did you see the one where they're like, how do you make money on Facebook?
Yeah,
like bro.
That's why he's here right now. Like, unreal. Like, I felt like, it was terrible.
lot of people had like that same sort of feedback that you were saying is that why isn't there people who are educated in tech that they don't even know how Facebook is monetized?
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It's like, just old people on Senate and they don't know what they're talking about. They just have authority.
They got to get with the times.
But do you think, for example, if Facebook has more security measures, right, or if they can't get as much data as they want to, it's gonna affect us?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's definitely going to affect us. And I think based on watching the Senate testimony, what I thought they were trying to do is they're trying to create legislation where just the I agree box to the terms, now we collect all your data, isn't going to work anymore. I think they're going to be something like a pop-up will come up when you make your Facebook account. It's going to say, I authorize Facebook to show me advertisements. And I think that's going to be a killer for businesses because how many people want to see ads?
Ads are going to be more expensive. It's going to there's a lot of garbage going on.
Yeah, I feel like maybe would be like, are you what like maybe a personal questionnaire like before or something, or like just pops up saying like what are your hobbies and what are your interests, and then maybe advertising specifically like that company with that person so they're not as like affected by it in a way where like.
But the thing with that is, man, whenever you, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but when you automatically place someone on an I agree type of list, it's so much easier because if they're already on that list, they could just accept and press next. But if you ask them, a lot of people will give it a second thought. And
I think this whole thing even happened is because consumers were complaining that Facebook is using their privacy.
Sure, outside, but I'm saying if you use your privacy, if you use that information for ads and things like that, I think most of them are okay with it because you're catering to what their needs are, right? If I'm selling a dog tag, I'm gonna sell it to people that love dogs or they love not dog tags, but like a dog mug, right? I sell to people that love dogs, so I don't think that's really pushing it too far, right? I mean, a lot of the ones that are pushing it far is
I think it's the scary ones is the like the mic that they're able to use.
I don't think that's real. What
it is? No, it is.
What?
So me and my dad were talking the other day about Corvettes, right? And then he had his if you go on your microphone settings, Facebook, there's an enable or disable button for like it's I believe it's dictation. I don't know what it is to use your microphone. And then literally he went on his Facebook and he was scrolling and then he saw an ad for a Corvette. And then I looked more into it and it said that you have to go and disable the box because apparently that you're giving authorization for them to pull like what you're talking about to then use like your words, like specific keywords to then advertise to you in that sense.
I think that's real. I think that's only if you're on Facebook.
No. It was, I mean, from the research that I did, it was real.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so like they asked Mark this question during the Senate too, and he said that wasn't true. And what I've learned about this is that like, because I've gotten this question from a lot of my friends and stuff like that too, is that let's say I have a conversation with you about Corvettes and I'm super passionate about it, right? I don't think that's the first time I've ever done anything to look into Corvettes.
Exactly. You've Googled it.
Let's say if I Google and I go to a website, like he's saying, there's pixels on those websites.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I understand the pixel sense, but because it was literally like a 10-second.
Your dad has never looked up Corvettes. This is the first time he's ever talking to you about Corvettes. He's never looked it up. That's why I think people are naive when it comes to that. Like, sure, right now, if I talk to you about Corvettes and you go see a Corvette ad, you'll be like, oh my God, we were talking about it. No, recently you've actually looked like your family owns a Corvette, so you've looked it up.
Could be, but it wasn't the first instant that happened. It's happened through like Instagram as well.
It's more coincidence, and you've already researched it so many times, where the ad comes up and you freak out because you've talked about it.
It could be, but hey, I don't know.
Because like the other thing is like, let's say Facebook did do that, they would be the stupidest company in the world to show that advertisement within the next 5 minutes, right?
That'd be
if
creepy.
Like you have that conversation and they do that, like they're just shooting themselves in the foot. If they're smart, they're gonna wait like a week. And you totally forgot that you talked about Corvettes with your dad at that point. Oh, there's a Corvette, right? So like they'd go for like that subconscious advertising.
You know what I challenge you to do?
Yeah.
Talk about something that you've never talked about.
You know, there's videos on that,
like an orange plant that you've never ever discussed, and a week later see if anything.
I was on a YouTube video and someone said the same challenge, and she literally did the same thing. She was talking about cat products, and then she said the word cat. Literally 10 minutes passed by. She went on her phone and it was cat advertisement. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying what I've seen and what I've experienced.
Because I feel like that would be that if that were the case, then he deserves to be penalized because that's some creepy.
I'll show you guys after the podcast that it was sort of like weird, and like I'm not the first one who's noticed this. So
okay, we kind of got off on that.
Yeah.
But, besides that, I mean, dude. You're 25 years old. You've done all this, man. What's next for you? What's your dream? You know, to do in this life because you've done so much already by this age.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my dream come true thing would be to create my own like actual school. And I've always been a big believer that with the education system, up until like maybe like junior high and maybe like a year or two of high school, you have all the skills that you need to carve out your own path in life, right? Like you know how to read, you know how to write, you understand everything, the basics. I want to create a school or some kind of system where I'm not learning from a curriculum. Like no 50-year-old person's creating an education, all the textbooks and what I need to learn. You go in there and you learn whatever it is that you're the most passionate about. So the only rule is you have to do something productive in there, but it doesn't matter what it is. If you want to be a fireman, read about fireman books and do that kind of stuff. So it's almost like creating a massive like university, so to speak, that like parents sign up for their kids after like junior high or something. They just come in here, give them all the resources, mentors, teachers, tools, and see if these guys can like build massive things and change the world.
And you want to do that physically or online?
I think right now I only have the capability to do it online, but ideally I think doing it physically and doing it at a younger age, because right now I'm like targeting more like 18 plus. I think I would need to do it physically to get the younger age to be able to do it.
Right, because like if it was online, they probably wouldn't understand or pay attention, right?
Yeah, because of the goofing off thing and more trust with parents and like someone to kind of monitor them. Yeah,
I feel like at a young age though, like I know I wanted to be like NBA player or like a race car driver or all that stuff. I don't know exactly that what I'm passionate about. I feel like age gives that 18 to 25 is like when you realize what exactly you're passionate about, and then you go and you apply for that position, or you make your own business specifically for that position. How would you like? I mean, this is just obviously hypothetical speaking, but how would you combat that issue? Or like, how do you know, especially like if a kid wants to be a firefighter, it's like, how well can you monetize being a firefighter when you're just getting paid this amount of salary? Like there's always a cap, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like society itself has set this precedent that for the first 18 years of your life, be quiet, go to school, get your degree, then start thinking about what you should do next in life.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people get to 18 and they go all the way to like 30, 35. And this is the reason why I feel like so many people are dissatisfied with their jobs and can't find their purpose. It's because that's a very short window of time to find out what you want to do in life. And let's say you try 3 different things and none of them are for you. You're pretty much screwed at that point. You have to pick something and just run with it, because you have family and all these responsibilities. So my whole idea is that if you set the precedent that like, no, at an earlier age, you should start seeking what it is that you may be good at or what you should be doing. It's just more about like discovery and development, right? Like, because I've been able to create a website when I was like 8 years old, right? And like, I'm not a genius. I'm nothing special than anybody else. It was just the fact that I was very curious. I had some free time in the summer and I looked up the resources and I did it. And I think the same thing goes for like kids, right? Just giving them the tools to be able to do that. And just see what they can create and what they want to do. And for a lot of people, they may realize, okay, you know what? After trying like 5 different things, I want to be a firefighter. Cool. Get to 18, graduate, go to firefighting school. So I don't think it like alters their career path, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
I mean, as long
concept.
as you teach them the basic knowledges that you need to survive in this life, because a lot of times you come out of school and there's so many like basic things that you're not taught, because you're taught what a parallelogram is versus like, for example, how to do your taxes, where it's like, dude, why weren't they teaching this? You know, like I don't need to know what a parallelogram is as much as I need to know how to do my taxes or how to save up to buy a house or how to save, or whatever, right? Like make income. So I think that's a great idea. And what I see a pattern in your life is you've always been in this route where, for example, you built it to see that website where how to get the chances of you getting into a school, right? And then you slowly build this incubator, and then it's going to just level up and you're actually going to be successful in that. But it just shows that you do have that passion in it, you know, like it's not about the money only for you. It's like you want to do this, right? To help people.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, it's definitely a passion thing for me. Like the only business that I would say that wasn't a passion thing for me was the first company that I started. And that one was just more like, man, like, let me see how much I can fill my pockets up. And that was my only goal.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, I kind of got over that idea. And that's why I decided, you know what, it's time to sell. It's time to do something that like really fulfills me, right? And like even going back to on your point about the whole college thing, like I think one of the biggest issues that I have with college is that they're literally training everyone to be a robot. Everyone in every industry, every degree is vying for the same job and they're learning the same exact things. And I think that's my biggest issue is that like how can the world advance and progress and change if everyone is being
absolutely
converted into these robots?
Yeah.
Well, man, much luck to you. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Dude, at 25, you've done a lot of awesome things, man. And good luck to your future endeavors, all right?
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of things to link in this bottom description.
But definitely make sure to follow up with Jeet on your social medias. We'll definitely put those underneath as well. But again,
where are you most active on?
I'm getting really active on Instagram lately after all the Facebook debacles. But before that, I'm very active on Twitter as well.
Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll link all of your social media. Your book, we'll try to get the Audible link on. Again, if you guys sign up on audibletrial.com/vibes, you guys can pick it up for free. And check out the Income Incubator if you guys are interested, or if you have any questions. I mean, you can always reach out to Jeet. Again, thank you for coming on, man. It was a pleasure having you on. And from the Vibes guys and Jeet, we're out of here.
Peace.
Peace.